Hello beautiful people of the internet. Today we'll be playing some of the unfinished games and worlds Puppet Combo has made. Now these are levels that were never finished, so they're a bit glitchy and buggy, but I thought it'd still be fun to look at what games could have existed. Trust me, there are some cool ones in here that you wish were made into full games. Alright, enough yapping. Let's take a look at some lost levels. So the first game I played was called Distant City, and this game looks really cool. You play as some sort of knight, and you also have a sword. This dude looks really awesome, and I really wish we saw this model in one of their other games. After checking myself out, I saw a massive yellow light coming towards me, and I got really scared, but it turns out it was just a giant cyclops spider. Totally normal. At first I thought these guys were hostile, but after getting close to them, it turns out they wanted nothing to do with me. I guess Puppet Combo didn't program them to attack the player yet, so thank God. Besides that, I found a city off in the distance and decided to go there to check it out. It turns out the city wasn't fleshed out and didn't even have a floor, but on the bright side I found a random Dreamcast logo at the bottom of the map. Huh? Anyways, this looks like it had a lot of potential. On to the next. So the next game in our entry is called Clown Motel. Guys, look, they made a motel for you. This one is pretty short and there's not much going on here, to be honest. I spawned in as a creepy clown, and the first thing I noticed was that there were 3 other clowns that looked exactly like me. What the hell? These guys had no AI and didn't move at all, so I'm guessing those guys were just set here as some sort of placeholder. Unironically, they were all standing in front of a clown motel, which I could not enter, unfortunately. The back of the motel is not too different, with nothing really back there besides an unfinished ground that I accidentally fell through. Next! This one is called Shark Boat, and it's also pretty short, but I still found it really interesting because it gives us a look at what type of vibes and settings Puppet Combo is capable of making. In this one, we play as what I assume to be some sort of sailor, and we're traversing the seas. The vibes are crazy on this one. It has a really old school VHS found footage vibe that I think works perfectly with the cold and lonely place we find ourselves in. That's when I noticed a giant shark fin above the surface circling my boat. This guy didn't attack me, but I was still pretty scared. But other than that, that's pretty much all this game has to offer. On to the next. So this one is called Blood Lake, and this is probably the closest we'll ever get to a Friday the 13th game by Puppet Combo. I mean, come on, look at the names. Blood Lake, Crystal Lake. Yeah, but just looking around, I instantly got Friday vibes and I'm all for it. When I loaded in, I spotted this random body. R.I.P. him, I guess. That's when I noticed a creepy looking house and I decided to first check around it to make sure there were no scary goblins. That's when I saw something or someone. Oh hell no, who the fuck is that? There was just some random dude inside the house. I was hesitant to enter, but I hyped myself up and went in, and to my surprise, he was friendly.
Excuse me, what the actual f are you doing with my—
Yeah, this guy didn't seem to have an AI, so he just stood there, but it's probably better this way. Let's be real. The first thing that came to mind was that this guy reminded me so much of the Butcher. I mean, the similarities are undeniable. The build, the weapon, the height, and the mask. As much as I wanted to stay here, I had to keep exploring this world. So I packed my bags and said goodbye to my new friend. Along my journey, I found many things. First, I found this random floating house that I just could not go inside of no matter how many times I've tried. Trust me, I was there for at least 10 minutes trying, but I couldn't, so I decided to move on. Next, I found a glowing orb in the sky and a house next to it, but I chose to follow the orb. When I got there, it turned out it was nothing really. Maybe it would have been a light source or something, but anyways, I went to the house and that one was floating too. Yes, I tried everything. So I ran and ran and ran, and I couldn't really find much after that, besides some more abandoned floating houses. After spending many decades of wandering this mystical lake, I decided it was time to call it quits and move on to the next game. So I went out like a real trooper. Our next game is called Power Drill Massacre Remake, and right off the bat, whoa. Although the lighting is a bit buggy, you can tell Puppet Combo genuinely stepped up their game when it came to graphics for this one. I entered the house and it was mostly filled with empty rooms. The interior looked pretty nice, but with nothing to do, I chose to venture out and find some new landmarks. The first place I visited was a random gas station in the middle of nowhere. Here I found a blue van that had no collision and a shed that had nothing in it. After searching this gas station, I ran towards the giant broadcast tower because, well, I thought it looked cool. It turns out this tower wasn't even set on the ground and was actually floating, but I guess it's so far away that it wouldn't even be noticeable from that far. Now that we have a better angle, we're now able to see our player model, and my god. Yeah, her face looks a little janky and weird, but we all have to remember that these are all unfinished and unpolished games, so we can't hate too much. For some reason, I felt a strong urge to reach the top of the mountain, so that's exactly what I did. Before I could get to the top, I spotted a small building down the hill, so I stopped in my tracks and headed there. Upon getting closer, I found that it was actually a motel, and a pretty spooky one at that. I went inside and searched each room, and again found nothing of interest, so I went back on my journey up the mountain. After what felt like 4.5 years, I finally made it to the top, only to find out that the game didn't let me go any higher. I tried and tried and tried, but unfortunately I couldn't, so I decided to go exploring one more time. After getting back to the ground, I followed the road and it led me to some dead end. After exploring what this game had to offer, I thought it was reasonable to call it quits here, and so I jumped into the abyss. Our next game that we will be going over is called Burnt Alive, and this one's kind of weird. The moment you spawn in, you are met with a cutscene that basically informs you that you just arrived at a motel with your friends, and a desk clerk is introducing you to the place. The camera angles are weird, and the voice acting is especially awkward. It sounds really amateur and like it was made at the last minute and slapped into the game.
Where you headed?
South.
How come?
We're going to Baton Rouge.
Oh yeah, for what?
Well, actually, I just inherited my parents' old house down there. We're driving there to check it out. But the way the storm looks...
Yes, sir. You forewarned an overnight...
Of course, this isn't the finished product, so we can't really criticize it too much. After the cutscene was over, the clerk led us to our rooms, and once we got in, that was pretty much it. I ran around the motel for at least 15 minutes, and there was absolutely nothing of interest in any of the rooms. I'll show a sped up version of the gameplay in the back, but this environment was really confusing and repetitive, so with that being said, next! Okay, now this one is probably my favorite one, and it's called Vigilante. This game plays like Christmas Massacre, but looks like Hotline Miami, and I'm all for it. I mean, look at the guy we play as. This was clearly inspired by Hotline Miami, and I wish Puppet Combo could have made more things similar to this. After spawning in, I noticed that they gave me a metal pipe as a weapon, and pretty soon, I started going to town on whoever I saw. There was some guy in a white suit holding a gun, clipped him. Found another guy with a gun, got him. Some guy sitting on the couch smoking a cigarette, we'll let him slide. Another guy in the room next to the kitchen whom I killed, and there was one more dude minding his business drinking a beer, and of course I got him too. Oh wait, and that guy on the couch earlier who I spared? Yeah, I killed him too. Besides that, that was pretty much all there was to this game. Despite it being so short, I just loved it, and it's easily my favorite unfinished Puppet Combo world. The vibes are awesome. It's a Christmas Massacre clone too, which fits perfectly with the art style of the characters and setting. Everything about this little demo is just perfect, and it's so sad to see that this game was never put into full production, but I guess I can see why. On to our last couple of games, we have Motel, which was also pretty short but worth looking at. When I first loaded into the game, I spawned inside a small building, and after I found the exit, I was met with a demo complete? Just kidding. They trolled us, and there was actually a little more to this game. They sent me to the outside of some motel, and for some reason I was getting Deadly Night vibes, even though this motel doesn't really look like the one we find in Deadly Night. I pretty much ran throughout the motel trying to find any door I could enter, but unfortunately I couldn't. I checked both the bottom and top floor, but wasn't able to find anything other than a random vending machine in one of the rooms. I wonder what Puppet Combo was trying to make here. Our last and final unfinished game is called The Fishing Village, and this one has massive potential in my personal opinion. The setting takes place on some dock with some sort of church building and some houses along the dock. This level gives me a lot of Silent Hill vibes, to be honest, and one look around definitely confirms that. Oh yeah, there's also a lighthouse to the side of the map that I was not able to get into. First, I went into this red house, and as expected, there was nothing but empty rooms, but I was able to get a view out the window. I was about to go inside of another house until I got stuck. When I finally got in, I found a hallway that led to the void and this untextured staircase. W house in my opinion. I would totally live here. I searched the last house on the dock and there was nothing different inside that we haven't already seen. So unfortunately, that's all this game has to offer. I thought the setting was really good and I wish Puppet Combo can revisit this because it looked like it would have been such a good and scary game. So that concludes going over most of the unfinished Puppet Combo games. I know there are probably some other ones that exist or ones that were never put out, but I thought it'd be cool if we looked at some of the projects that were under development but were never finished. It's a good look at what could have been, but we shouldn't dwell too much because these were probably never finished for good reasons. Anyways, I hope you all learned something new today, and that's gonna be it for me. See ya.